Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created this mixed media piece using charcoal and India inks. I hope after watching this video it will inspire you to create your own mixed media piece. So let's take a look at what I used to start my drawing with. So I'm going to use my Pentalic Charcoal Drawing Noir set. You can get this set on Amazon.com. It's a really good set for beginners to start their drawings with. So I would recommend you get this if you don't already have a little charcoal drawing set of your own. So I'm going to start my drawing off on a white piece of watercolor paper. I'm using watercolor paper so that I can have a thick enough surface to withstand all of the wet media that I'm going to be adding later on after my drawing is finished. So I wanted to make this piece to kind of experiment with inks and charcoal. I had done another piece kind of similar to this in the past, and I really enjoyed the mixed media style that I created. So I wanted to do another kind of study for that type of technique. So I wanted the vibe of the whole painting itself to be very dreamy and whimsical and just very feminine and soft. There's like a mysterious kind of vibe to it. And I'm going to create that vibe using these really cool India inks that I have. Now that I have most of her face sketched out, I'm going to start drawing some branches using my charcoal stick. I really like these charcoal sticks. They give a very textured look to your drawing and they're really fun to use. They're very dark. And then I'm going to start shading in the background with some chalk pastels in gray and some dark grays, just to give my background some more texture. And then I'm just going to finesse the details there with some more lines, just having the branches kind of surround her. I'm adding these smaller branches now, just getting in all the little bits of detail to finish off these big branches. And you can see here that I'm using some of my fingers to smudge out some of the little textures in the background. I'm doing that just to soften up the texture a little bit. I'm adding darker grays in the background, just layering the textures together. Some more darks, smudging some of the parts with my finger. So now that my drawing is finished, I'm going to use a varnish spray and I'm going to set my drawing so that when I start painting on it, it doesn't rub off the charcoal. And just to make sure that everything is set, after the varnish has dried, I'm going to go back with a matte gel. Using a paintbrush, I'm going to brush that gel all over my drawing just to make sure everything is sealed and that the charcoal is not going to smudge off after I start painting on it. So once the whole drawing has dried down completely, I'm going to start painting on it. So I'm going to use this Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink for my blues. I really like these colors. They're very bright and they flow so well when you're trying to mix them together. And the other colors I'm going to use are these pearlescent liquid acrylics from Daler-Rowney. I really like them too. They're very high flow and they work really well together. So what I do first is I put down a wash of the shimmering blue. It doesn't look blue in the video here. It's actually very transparent. It looks like a transparent pearl color. And I'm using that as a wash to kind of dab my golds and my blues on top of. And that's going to help them kind of spread and give that nice translucent look. So there are some areas that I want to have a lot of gold and some areas I want to have light washes of blue and some other areas that I want to have dark blues. So I just layer on more color if I want it to be more dark, and as you notice I'm using a round brush to kind of dab onto the wet spots and where I want the color to kind of spread out. And now I am adding a little touch of blue to her face just to give it some shadow and some color. And what I plan to do when all of the paint is dry is I'm gonna go back in with color pencil and add some more color to her face to liven her up. Because right now she's kind of matching the background and I want her to stand out a little bit more. And as the paint starts drying, I'm adding a little more dabs of color here and there just to give it that textured look of the petals that are coming off of the branches. So now that the painting has dried down, I'm gonna go back in with my color pencils and add some pinks to her face to liven it up and make her stand out from the background. And I'm using my Prismacolor pencils. They're my favorite type of color pencils to use. They're really easy to blend and the colors are super vibrant no matter what shade it is. And I'm just blending everything on her face, adding lots of pinks and reds and corals, and also adding shadows to the contours of her face to just make her stand out a lot more. So as you can see, once you start adding in the shadows and the highlights and the midtones, everything just comes to life. So always remember to add these 3 different types of values to whatever you're coloring or painting because you don't want it to look super flat. So here's a tip on blending color pencils. Whenever you are trying to shade something, you always have a color that has highlights, a color for midtones, and you have a color for shadows. So to blend, what you need to do is you need to use that highlighting color, which would be the lightest shade, and you would use that color to blend the darker shades. For example, if I were to blend the eye area right there, I have put down my shadows and my midtones of that color, and then I'm going to use the highlight color to color over it, and that will help the colors blend more seamlessly. So some of my goals this summer is to really improve on my drawing skills. You definitely need to practice a lot so that you can improve on your technique. I know I have a lot of growing to do with my skills, so definitely want to fill up a sketchbook this summer. That's one of my big goals for my art this summer. I really want to create a strong body of work that has a theme to it. So maybe creating 12 pieces of artwork that has a theme. So if I were to have my own solo show, what would that theme be? It is something I think I definitely want to explore and brainstorm. Looking back at my body of work, I don't really have a group of paintings that kind of have a theme together, so I definitely want to develop more of a cohesive collection of paintings that have a story that kind of goes together. And I definitely think having 10 to 12 paintings to start with will really give me a stronger body of work and make me more viable for galleries and other types of exhibitions. So I'm curious, what are you looking to improve upon skill-wise? And is there anything you're interested in drawing or painting this summer? Will you be drawing and painting a lot this summer? What are your plans to get creative? I think if you really can't think of anything to draw or paint, having a sketchbook is really helpful. If I'm having an artist block, I like to just get out a piece of watercolor paper or my sketchbook and I start sketching a picture that I found online, like a photograph of a girl, and then from there I start adding paint and colors to it, and the story just kind of morphs into something else the more I work on it. So I think just don't give up and allow that artist block to get to you. Just try to just sit down for like an hour and just keep on drawing something, and by the end of that hour you'll probably have something that you're really pleased with or proud of. You'll be surprised. Now I'm just going to add some finishing touches to the background. I felt like it needed a little bit more texture in some areas, so I went back in with my filbert brush and I just dabbed a little bit more petals into the background with my blue inks. And just to give it a little more variation in texture, I have some little small textures there and also some wider ones. And it just adds more variety to the background itself. The filbert brush is one of my favorites to use. It's very versatile, and a lot of the things that I paint have very rounded or organic shapes and edges to them, so the filbert is the perfect brush to use to paint those kind of shapes. If you use the brush on its side, you can paint very thin lines if you want. If you press the whole brush down flat on your paper, it will make these rounded little shapes. And if you use just the point, it can also give you very small little shapes. After the background was finished, I decided to experiment with the dropper tool that was a part of my ink bottles. I used the dropper from the gold inks, and I decided to use it to make these little gold dots in the background and the foreground of the branches, and I decided I really liked the effect, so I kind of went all out and added a lot more of these little gold dots everywhere. The trick to doing this type of whimsical look with little dots in the background is to think of the dots as little clusters that you're making. They are not supposed to be in a perfect pattern. They're supposed to be in random little clusters around the backdrop. If you make it look too uniform or they have a pattern to them, it's not going to look very natural. So you want to get that natural, organic look by thinking of them as little random clusters. So after the gold had dried down, I went back in with a white gel pen and I just added some little bits of white dots to it to finish off my painting. I will have prints of this painting up in my online shop if you want to hang it up on your wall. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!